Mark Rose, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you made a long journey here, and I really appreciate having you today. And it's really interesting where life has taken you from the inception to now. It's a remarkable story. I want you to dial us back a little bit to your childhood in Alaska and the importance that state has had in your life and crafted kind of your story.
Well, Alaska is an incredible place to grow up in. And it molds you in different ways. And I was so fortunate to have my fallen in there. My mother was very liberal for me to be able to go and explore and hunt, fish, and trap and get into aviation. She supported me front and back in that whole thing, so that was encouraging. She didn't worry about me, which is shocking. This is before the days where you had cell phones or any kind of radio at all, and to give a kid a centerfire rifle and launch out into the wilderness there with the brown bears, which were ongoing and very serious issue all around me, as was the weather. I think at 14 years old, I had a 16-foot powered dory boat, and I ran those inland waters with. For Christmas vacation, we would take an extra few days off before and after. So we turned it into like a 3-week affair and disappear into the wild coastlines of Southeast Alaska with its 100-mile-an-hour winds and storms and terrific, difficult sea to deal with to get out to where we were going and come back home. I met some incredible people, Alaska and Juneau in specific being the capital. So you had the leaders of the state there and their children, which I went to school with.
So Mark, in every man's life, every woman's life, we have pivotal, life-changing experiences, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember you telling me a story when you were around 14, 15 years old. You were hunting mountain goats and nearly became a rosary bead and left us. Tell us a little bit about that situation.
So I had a buddy, his name was Pat. We lost him when he was 30, but he was with me on this hunt. And we saw a band of goats up by a glacier there, decided to go for them. And I took a shot, saw one drop, thought, oh my gosh, what did I do? Now I gotta go fetch this baby. And he went into the abyss. So we worked ourselves up along the left side of the glacier into the lateral moraine. And I felt very responsible to retrieve that animal, at all costs, almost all costs. So I took a risk, went out on a ledge, and followed it down around the corner of the lateral moraine, which is a vertical side adjacent to a glacier. And I started working my down, and it was a little downhill, this ledge, and it got narrower and narrower. It went from like a foot wide to like 6 inches wide. And then it started freezing raining and coated the whole thing in ice. And then I was stuck. I couldn't go up, I couldn't go down. My buddy was above me, but he was 20 feet above me. My next ledge above me was too far to reach. And so I felt myself go. And I was airborne. And at that moment, I kind of had my life pass before me in my mind. I had images of being a little baby, 5 years old, 10 years old. And I woke up and I was on the ledge above the ledge where I fell off. And, as a teenage kid, you just go, well, okay, that was a nice break. My buddy above me, Pat, was watching down, saw it happen, and he said, how did you do that? And I said, I don't know, but let's get out of here. And we left the goat, got out of the country. So flash forward, I'm hunting caribou with another friend named Mick Leach, who's still alive today.
You talk about Mick extensively in the
Yeah.
book, and
Yeah.
this is an interesting story.
So we were hunting in the far country. We had pushed our fuel stashes as far as we could fly out. And we got out there, turned the corner, and there was the Western Arctic herd of caribou spanned out in front of us. Tens of thousands of animals in like a Shangri-La setting. You couldn't see it from the maps to see the basin and everything there. You couldn't imagine it from a map until you actually saw it yourself. It was just the natural corridor where the huge caribou herds came down from the North Slope and went to their wintering areas in the south, and they all gathered together that time of year. And so we were appalled, shocked, awe. It was the coolest thing. So I went in and set Mick down in front of the herds, found a landing spot, went back for fuel, and another hunter. And we were pushing time then. It was getting late. The weather was deteriorating, which was not supposed to do that when I talked to flight service earlier that day, but it was what it was. So I thought, well, we'll dash up there, we'll make it, I'll land, we're set. The ways we're going to knock down caribou all week long, get them out of the country. We got it made. It's going to be a blast. So I got up there, and we had caribou all right. We had 10,000 of them packing all the sandbars where I landed. I couldn't land. They were around my buddy like a rock in a river. He was waving at them, couldn't get them to move. And so I flew round and around, circling around the area, waiting for the herd to break, right? Landing spot open, set the machine down. Wasn't happening.
So they won't break even if you come in? They don't
didn't care. Those big old bulls were just waving their racks at me. I remember it to this day, like, what are you doing? This is our country. I don't give a hoot about you and your airplane. This is our herd. We're crossing here. We probably have for 10 centuries. So I got my hunter, made my fuel stash, got back to Mick. Time was being used up, waiting for the herd to break somewhere in some of the sandbars, but as far as the eye could see, they were packed up against the river. And so it started snowing lightly, and I said, and then they broke. The herd broke open, opened up, exposed a little part of the landing area, right? But it was just about dark. And I had instructed my passenger, said, hey, the wind is switched now. I got to come in from your side of the airplane, and you got to call off the marker, make a set for me to land, because I cannot see any more of the runway. I'm going to go for that marker, and I'm going to set down, but you got to call it out so I can chop power and set down. And so I got all set up, everything was looking good, and the passenger didn't call off the marker. And so I chopped power out of desperation, thinking, if I don't get this load here on now, we'll leave Mick here for who knows how long with this weather changing. Well, I got into some boulders, and then it breaks off into the abyss, and then you're dead. And so I staggered back into the air, full power. I could feel that something went wrong with the airplane. I hit too hard. I knocked off the tail gear.
Oh, my goodness.
Left it on the sandbar there. And I flew back around, signaled to Mick. He waved me off, saying, there's no sense continuing this. The caribou were back in place. So we kicked out survival gear and a survival suit for Mick, some ammunition, headed back to our last fuel stash.
Now, Mick is left with a bunch of caribou, apex predators circling him.
Yes.
And he's out there on his own.
The wolves and the bears follow the herds at night.
And you're in an injured plane trying to get
I'm
to...
trying to get back. I figured, well, I'm just going to fly back, go to the fuel stash or the next village south, have enough fuel for that. So I turned the corner of the Grand Canyon. The weather's socked in. I can't get to my fuel stash. I can't get to the next village south. And I'm running out of gas, and I can't turn around because the weather's closed me in. And it's dark. So here I am. I'm out of fuel at night. I had a low side governor failure. I had no tail wheel. And I have no outs. There's no place to land. I'm trapped in the sky.
You're a dead man flying.
I had gone and looked for those guys on rescue missions and seen their black spots across the mountain where they hit. multiple times, and had friends have that happen. So all of a sudden, the smartest guy in the world, 21 years old, in the seat, is now feeling like the dumbest guy in the world, right? So here I am. I'm not going to kill myself. After about another half an hour, I had both tanks were on E. I'm going to kill a passenger. I can see the radio reel going. I used to listen to them all the time. I watched friends die this way. I'm going to get to die this way. And so those kind of feelings were going through my mind. And exploring every possible way to try to get that ship down somehow. It was impossible. I was in the mountains in a blizzard at night with no fuel stuck in the sky.
No visibility.
Zero visibility. So, and I had a low side generator, so I had to conserve my battery to keep the navigations on, and to point toward the only civilization left. So I'm running through these options, and this is not very good. I'm checkmated here. And so I started thinking about, reminiscing about the past, different things. And what should I rely on? I remember, hey, I got out of that falling off the mountain trip, but I thought, wow, this is different. And so I thought about my grandma and the fact that, she used to take me to church a little bit. I was not a churchgoer. I had nothing to do with the Bible, could care less about a religion at all. But I thought, it's really unfair to kill my passenger here. I'm a different thing, but I've got myself in this situation, and I'm going to kill my passenger now. So exploring all the options, I tried this. I prayed. I said my first prayer of my life at 21 years old.
Wow.
And I said these words. I said, if there's a God, I need your help now, in my mind. And all of a sudden, a light came in like a light bulb that you've got in the studio here, in my mind, illuminated, and a voice, a male voice, in a sarcastic tone said to me, he said these words. He said, son, you said the right thing. And that was it. Light went away. I thought, great. How about some fuel? And right after that, my engine smoothed up. The engine was starting to pack up. So that's when it's just almost running out of fuel. What happens? We blow out of the blizzard. And out there 13 miles out are the lights of Kotzebue, Alaska, like the celestial city.
Wow.
Only one small problem. 12 miles of 25 degrees salt water to fly over on wheels. So that was the longest 6 minutes of my life. And boy, did that runway look good. Sat down, I'll tell you what, I was a different boy. My philosophy of life before then was, human effort, your skills versus basically fate, right? But what I learned that night is there's a third element.
And what is that element, Mark?
I think that element is providence. I think it's the overseeing, all-powerful creator.
Wow.
And 6 months later, I got involved in another wreck. So I was kind of a stubborn guy about this whole God business, but I did some research. And so got involved in a wreck, and there was a 55-gallon drum sitting after we turned the helicopter upside down where my seat was.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so got done with that little episode, and so on the extraction flight out over the Yukon River, May 15th, 1977, I made a decision that Christianity was the way to go. That was for me then. I understand that might not be right for everybody, but it really worked for me. And I had discovered this prayer thing, and it became real to me. It became part of my life, and I'll tell you, I've been a praying man ever since, by one skip or the other.
It was very, very wild.
I saw some of my father's friends get mauled by bears.
It was very frontier.
This is the kind of stuff we live for.
Now available on DVD. Go to AlaskaLongHunters.com.